When completed, WGPA, located at 428 Broadhead Avenue in Bethlehem, was one of the finest equipped local stations in Pennsylvania. Studio A and B were the largest of the studios and were used for concerts, dramas, choruses, and other musical programs. The third studio, known as Studio C, was primarily used as an announcement studio for small groups of 2 or 3. A United Press teletype especially made for radio was installed in the newsroom to serve the station during broadcast hours. 2 broadcast towers at 2 different locations were also erected. The first was the standard AM tower located at 8th Avenue and Dell Street. The tower stood 225 feet in the air and operated on a frequency of 1100 kilocycles with a 250-watt transmitter. The tower included a complete ground system and consisted of 120 wires extending in all directions for the propagation of ground waves. The FM tower was located on Apple Butter Road in Bethlehem. The tower stood 250 feet tall and operated on 95.1 megacycles. The license issued to WGPA was the 136th FM license issued in the United States. Both transmitters and related broadcast equipment at the tower sites and the studios used RCA brand equipment, including an RCA 76B2 console. Even the design of the building itself was made to reflect the lines of RCA microphones and other equipment of the day. The men in charge of installing and maintaining that equipment were engineers Ray Orth, Joseph Dady, and Chief Engineer Edward Ryback. Pictured here, the 3 men are doing installation and testing days before the station officially took the airwaves in early 1947. In January of that year, Globe Times general manager Roland Adams received 2 congratulatory letters, one from Pennsylvania Governor James Duff in Harrisburg, and another letter from Washington, D.C., which in part read, "Nothing serves our democracy better than the opening up of channels for the spread of information. The President feels that your opportunity for public service has been greatly enlarged by the addition of radio station WGPA to your already excellent facilities. Sincerely yours, signed Charles G. Ross, Secretary to the President." It was with that commitment to Bethlehem and the Lehigh Valley area that WGPA officially took to the airwaves on February 8, 1947. Since its inception, WGPA AM has been a daytime-only station operating between the hours of sunrise and sunset. This is due to the fact that the frequency of 1100 kilohertz is what's known in radio as a clear channel. On clear channel frequencies, only one station in a large ranging area called the dominant station is permitted to operate during nighttime hours at full power. The FCC's rules regarding the protection of other stations is a result of a natural phenomenon which occurs at night called skywave propagation, which can allow AM waves to travel hundreds of miles. If not regulated, the result would be massive interference on the AM dial at night. In the case of 1100 AM, WTAM in Cleveland is the dominant station on the eastern portion of the United States. All other radio stations on that frequency must either reduce their power or cease operating altogether, like WGPA, in order to avoid that interference. Early on, WGPA's programming included a great deal of local news, sports, and both pre-recorded and live music performed by local musicians, folks like Charlene and Dubsy, the Georgia Plowboy who had taken up residence in the valley, and a young polka band named after its drummer called Jolly Joe Timmer and his orchestra. Timmer, a 1948 graduate of Bethlehem Catholic High School, remembers his first days at WGPA.
We went in to audition. We wanted to get a program going on the radio. So we went in, we set up and we started playing, you know, and we were kind of green. So Stefan George says, well, you're okay, but you got to practice a little more and come back. So that's what we did. And then, of course, we improved with our music. Instead of having 2 or 3 instruments playing melody, you know, we got some harmony going there, and it developed into a pretty good sounding group. And then we, of course, got a 15-minute slot on a Saturday. And after that, well, we went for a little while, and then all of a sudden we had an advertiser that we lined up for the show, Salk Fruit Market, and we got the program rolling. And after a little while, it got pretty popular, and we decided, at his request, John Hermanovich, that we started maybe a daily show or a couple of days a week show. So we did go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We had that our polka program, and it expanded. We not only played our band, but we played everybody's music, and that's how it started. And we got to be on every day. We got more and more advertisers, and the rest is history, I guess.
Aside from local artists, WGPA also featured shows by some of the leading band leaders and orchestras on the national scene, courtesy of transcribed broadcasts. Some of the big names of the day, like Duke Ellington, Alvino Ray, and drummer Gene Krupa, all had weekly or daily shows broadcast on WGPA under the direction of Art McCracken. Other shows broadcast contain decidedly less well-known content than the transcription artists. Shows like Household Tips, Farm Front, the Chuck Wagon Jamboree, and 15 Minutes of Heart Music on Mondays entertained listeners who were just happy to finally have a radio station that delivered these local programs to Bethlehem. Also, Bethlehem businesses and merchants now had another way to get their message heard locally, as many advertising accounts the Bethlehem Globe-Times newspaper had were expanded to include radio advertisements as well.
I'd say Wholesome is the best bargain in bread today.
Well, you know how I go for bargains.
Your whole family will go for that wholesome taste. Sure glad I switched to Wholesome.
Well, you sure look wholesome.
That's the Wholesome slogan. Be wholesome, look wholesome. Buy vitamin delicious wholesome bread every day.
Baked and sold by the Bricker Baking Company of Bethlehem.